It's a quiet evening in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The air feels heavy and still, as if the city itself is holding its breath. A bus stop sits beside a dimly lit road. Two cars are parked nearby, separated by several meters. Inside them, 7 men sit silently, watching. Their eyes never leave the bus stop. They have waited years for this moment. Every movement matters. Every second feels longer than the last. One mistake could ruin everything. These men are agents from Israel's intelligence service, Mossad. For months they have studied the routine of a man who lives quietly in this neighborhood. A man who works in a factory. A man who rides the same bus home every night. But this man is not who he claims to be. In fact, he is one of the most wanted war criminals in the world. His name is Adolf Eichmann. And tonight, his years of hiding are about to end. But to understand why these agents are waiting in the darkness, we need to go back nearly 2 decades, to a moment that helped shape one of the darkest chapters in human history. January 1942. One man at the meeting plays a particularly important role. He is not the most famous nor the most charismatic, but he is efficient, organized, and devoted to the Nazi cause, Adolf Eichmann. He records the minutes of the meeting. Later, he will become responsible for managing the logistics of the genocide. Eichmann doesn't command armies or lead battles. Instead, he organizes trains. Train after train. Each one carrying thousands of men, women, and children to ghettos, labor camps, and death camps across Nazi-occupied Europe. He coordinates deportations with terrifying precision. Documents are filed. Schedules are arranged. Routes are planned. Millions of lives reduced to paperwork. Through this bureaucratic machinery, the Nazis murder approximately 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. When the war finally ends in 1945, the world begins to uncover the scale of the crimes committed by Nazi Germany. The regime collapses. Hitler is dead. Allied forces occupy the ruins of the Third Reich. Many Nazi leaders are captured and tried for war crimes. But Adolf Eichmann disappears. For a time, he is held by American forces. But in the chaos of post-war Europe, security is loose and records are incomplete. Eichmann manages to escape from a prisoner camp and vanishes into the shadows. He adopts false identities, changes his name, moves from place to place. Eventually, he connects with underground escape networks known as ratlings. These secret routes help former Nazis flee Europe. By 1950, Eichmann reaches Argentina. There, under the alias Ricardo Clement, he begins a new life. He finds work in a factory connected to Mercedes-Benz. He rents a small house in a quiet suburb near Buenos Aires. He lives modestly with his family. To his neighbors, he appears to be an ordinary immigrant, a quiet man who returns home from work every evening. But across the world, investigators are still searching for him. One of the most determined is a German prosecutor named Fritz Bauer. Bauer is Jewish and had been imprisoned by the Nazis during the 1930s. After surviving the war, he dedicates his life to bringing Nazi criminals to justice. Yet Bauer faces a serious problem. In post-war West Germany, many officials in government and law enforcement once served under the Nazi regime. Some quietly protect former comrades. If Bauer officially begins an investigation into Eichmann, there is a risk the fugitive will be warned and disappear again. So Bauer makes a bold decision. Instead of trusting German authorities, he secretly contacts Israel. In particular, he shares his information with the intelligence service known as Mossad. At first, the Israelis are skeptical. The idea that Eichmann is living quietly in Argentina seems almost unbelievable. But evidence begins to accumulate. A witness reports that his daughter once dated a young man who bragged about his father's past and the Nazi regime. Investigators follow the lead. Slowly, a picture begins to form. The man called Ricardo Clement might actually be Adolf Eichmann. Mossad decides to send agents to Argentina to investigate. They begin discreet surveillance of the suspect's house. What they find surprises them. Instead of a powerful man living in luxury, they see a tired factory worker returning home on the bus every evening. Still, certain details raise suspicion. His family matches Eichmann's. The ages of his children align perfectly. And the longer the agents watch him, the more convinced they become. They are looking at the architect of the Holocaust. Now they face a difficult question. How do you capture one of the most infamous war criminals in history inside a foreign country? Official extradition could take months. During that time, Eichmann might escape again. So Israel makes a controversial decision. They will capture him secretly, 7 agents are selected for the mission. Many of them lost relatives in the Holocaust. For weeks they study Eichmann's routine. They note the bus he takes, the time he arrives, the distance he walks from the stop to his house. Finally, the moment arrives. Back at the bus stop in Buenos Aires, the agents wait as darkness settles across the street. A bus approaches, but when it stops, Eichmann does not step off. The agents exchange nervous glances. Have they made a mistake? Minutes later, another bus arrives. This time, 2 passengers step onto the sidewalk. A woman and a man. The man begins walking down the road, toward his house, toward the waiting agents. One of the Mossad operatives steps out of the shadows and approaches him. In Spanish, he asks a simple question. For a brief moment, Eichmann pauses. That hesitation is all the agents need. They grab him and pull him to the ground. Another agent rushes forward to help. Within seconds, they force him into the back seat of their car. The entire operation takes less than a minute. Eichmann struggles at first, insisting that he is Ricardo Clement. But during interrogation, he eventually reveals details that confirm his identity. The agents now face their next challenge, smuggling him out of Argentina. They devise an unusual plan. Eichmann will be disguised as a member of an Israeli airline crew. He will be sedated and dressed in a uniform. The agents claim he is a drunken flight attendant who had too much to drink. At the airport, security guards laugh at the sight of the apparently intoxicated crew members and wave them through. Moments later, the plane takes off. Only once it leaves Argentine airspace do the agents reveal the truth. Adolf Eichmann is on board, and he is being taken to Israel. The world learns about the capture days later, when Israel's Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion makes a public announcement. The news shocks the international community. One of the most wanted Nazi criminals has finally been captured. In 1961, Eichmann stands trial in Jerusalem. The proceedings become one of the most important war crime trials in history. Survivors of the Holocaust testify about their experiences in ghettos, camps, and mass deportations. Many describe the trains that carried them to their suffering, trains organized by Eichmann's office. Throughout the trial, Eichmann insists he was simply following orders, a bureaucrat obeying the system. But prosecutors present documents showing that he was far more than a passive participant. He was deeply involved in planning and implementing the deportations that led millions to their deaths. In December 1961, the court finds him guilty of crimes against humanity. The following year, he is executed. For many survivors, the verdict represents a form of justice that had seemed impossible. Yet the trial also raises troubling questions. How could an ordinary-looking man become responsible for such extraordinary evil? Was he a monster, or something even more disturbing? A man who simply chose obedience over humanity. Decades later, historians and philosophers continue to debate that question. Because Eichmann's story is not just about one criminal, it is a warning. A reminder that history's greatest atrocities are not always carried out by obvious villains. Sometimes they are organized quietly, by people who believe they are simply doing their jobs. And perhaps the most unsettling part of the story is this. When Adolf Eichmann stepped off that bus in Buenos Aires, he thought he had escaped justice forever. But someone, somewhere, had been watching, and the hunt for truth had only just begun. Yet even today, historians still debate one lingering mystery. If Fritz Bauer had not secretly contacted Israel, would Adolf Eichmann have ever been found at all?